Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Disney's first ever feature-length animated film, released in 1938. Nothing like it had ever been done before, and it was a huge success, a crowning achievement in film history, and it set the foundation for Disney's amazing legacy of animated movies that audiences have loved for almost a century. Well, flash forward about 80 years or whatever, and now we have this thing, the 2025 remake of Snow White, directed by Mark Webb and starring Rachel Zegler as Snow White herself and Gal Gadot as the evil queen, retelling the same basic story as the original but somehow worse, infinitely worse. And look, I don't love the old cartoon, but any valid critiques you can throw its way are nothing in comparison to the piece of shit I just saw. You can say the original movie is a product of its time. A tad sexist, with reinforcing outdated gender stereotypes, with Snow White being a very passive female character, and loving domestic chores, and cleaning and cooking for all the dudes. And that's a perfectly valid critique. It's certainly dated in the late 1930s, but there's no malicious intent in there, and everyone loves to point out how shallow the romance is between her and the nameless prince, but you know what? It's a fairy tale, it's pure fantasy, and that's okay sometimes. Overall, I think the original animated version is perfectly fine, just not something I love. I respect its place in history, and I respect the technical side of it. Could the story use an update? Maybe. I think we've moved past that edgy phase in the 2010s where every fairy tale was remade to be all dark and fucked up. Kind of followed after Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland in 2010. Everything followed in its footsteps for a while. But we are past that, and in theory, I would not be opposed to Disney trying for a modern interpretation of the classic story. Something closer to the 2015 Cinderella would be nice, but we didn't get that. Instead, we got something stupid. Stupid and bad and ugly. Jesus Christ. So, this remake isn't a one-to-one recreation how the 2019 Lion King tried to be. Many scenes try to mimic the original, but again, worse, and the overarching story is expanded, and so much of it is reworked and recontextualized, and I swear to God, every single creative decision was the wrong one. I am spoiling this movie because there's nothing to spoil. It's Snow White. Who cares? The basic story is still here. Snow White's stepmother is the evil queen who's jealous of her beauty. She hires a huntsman to kill Snow White, but he lets her run away into the woods where she meets the seven dwarfs who let her stay with them. The evil queen finds out Snow White is alive, dons a disguise to give her a poison apple, Snow White eats it, and then dies. Then a prince shows up out of nowhere and gives her true love's kiss to revive her, and the queen dies somehow, and Snow White lives happily ever after. But this time around, they make Snow White a more proactive character, with agency, which in theory is about the only thing it has going for it. She wants to restore kindness to the kingdom and whatever. Not that she actually does anything. She doesn't cheerfully perform domestic labor for the men. She's not bound to the gender stereotypes of old, but she doesn't actively do anything herself. Nothing that important. This in particular is something all of the Disney remakes have tried doing with their female characters. Again, it makes sense, I agree with it, but it never actually works. They'd have to radically change the story and the characters if they truly wanted their women to have agency, but that requires thought and effort, more than I think they want to put in. Plus, I doubt the studio wants their remakes to deviate too far from the structure that everyone's familiar with, so it's just this illusion of updating for the times. Speaking of lame updates that don't add anything, this time there's a rebellion against the queen. Not a very big one. It's like 5 bandits hiding in the woods. Okay, and one of them is some dude who replaces the prince. Yeah, there's no prince in this movie. Snow White's love interest is one of the resistance fighters. He's a street-smart thief whose name I can't even fucking remember. This is an attempt to fix a problem with the old cartoon, as this time Snow White actually gets to know her love interest before he revives her with the kiss. Another thing I agree with changing, of course, except a whole new problem has been created. That being, I don't like this guy. And their romance is even stupider because it only kind of tries. I'm not convinced for one moment that these two are in love. I felt no connection, no chemistry, no nothing. The dude himself is generic and boring. No actual charisma whatsoever. But they share more scenes together than she does with the prince in the old cartoon, so it's supposed to be better? I'm supposed to think it's better? I'm sorry, but I'd rather have it be shallow fairy tale nonsense than something half-assed like this. This is just aggravating. So Snow White has agency, even though she hardly does anything with it, and there's a rebellion, not that they do anything. There's no prince, and a stupid barely thought out romance. What else is new? What else did they change for the remake? Well, it's a lot softer, safer, and child-friendly than the literal cartoon for some reason. Just an example. The huntsman, traditionally in this story, is ordered to cut out Snow White's heart and put it in a box for the queen. He lets her go, obviously, but he still needs to report back to the queen, so he puts a pig heart in the box, and the queen doesn't realize she's been deceived until the magic mirror outright tells her it's a pig heart. In the remake, it's a fucking apple. The huntsman put an apple in the box, and Gal Gadot didn't even open the fucking thing to check, and still had to be told by the mirror that she was lied to. What is so wrong about a pig heart switcheroo? Even if you don't want to show it, you can still have it be said. They never showed it in the original either. Was that too much for a dumb child's sensitive modern mind? Can we not respect kids at all to where we have to soften everything? It doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's really stupid. And not to mention, any of the darker imagery is severely downplayed. It's just ridiculous. What else did they fuck up? Well, there's a bunch of new songs that suck, and I mean they are ass. At least 2 are from the original movie. The rest are new compositions that nobody tried with, and the musical numbers are even more boring and lifeless than Wicked Part 1. No stylistic imagery, no fun choreography, no creative staging and framing and blocking. You won't find that here. I mean, the introductory bit with the dwarves going, hi-ho, whatever. I mean, that was almost interesting to look at, but the dwarves are so fuck ugly that it ruins any charm that sequence might have had. It was entirely CGI anyway, so they had animators doing way more imaginative musical number stuff than the live-action ones. I am convinced that we've lost the recipe to making good live-action musicals, because everything after La La Land has been garbage. This included, which is sad because apparently La La Land's choreographer worked on Snow White too. What happened? Oh, and Gal Gadot has 2 villain songs. Oh, joy! Just what I wanted to hear. They're the fucking worst villain songs I've ever heard in my life. I swear to God. The Queen never had a song in the original, but if she's gonna have 2, then they should be on par with Hellfire from Hunchback of Notre Dame, I swear. Like, she is not a fun, campy villain like Scar. She is the original evil bitch. Give her a song with impact, make it fierce, make her imposing. But no, her first song is this light-hearted, poppy thing. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just lame. And Gal Gadot is painful to watch. She is the worst A-list actress working in Hollywood today. At a certain point, it can't be the director or the script's fault for someone's performance. Sometimes the actor is just that bad, and Gal Gadot is the worst thing about this whole movie by far and away. No screen presence, not threatening whatsoever. They don't even frame her that imposingly. Her voice isn't scary, her singing is terrible, her delivery is pathetic, and in her first musical number, the way they have her moving just on the set is she's just so awkward. She moves so weird. How can someone this high profile be this boring? or this bad in general. Fuck, I could play the evil queen better than her. Oh, and she dies by getting sucked into a mirror dimension. Yeah, she gets mad at the magic mirror, breaks it, then her body gets turned to ash? Like, the mirror does this. She turns her body to ash, then the mirror shards pull her into a fucking wormhole, into a dark void. Why? I guess I should talk about the disgusting CGI dwarves. Yeah, so, okay, they are hideous. They are unpleasant to look at every time they're on screen. And again, I must ask, why? Why did they have to be CGI? Couldn't you cast real little people? I'm sure they'd love the work, especially in an industry that doesn't typically favor them. There's some story being spun about Peter Dinklage supposedly being the reason real actors with dwarfism weren't cast in this movie. Like, he made a big deal about how people with dwarfism are usually cast as fantasy creatures or something. Santa's elves or what have you. And I don't know what bearing this had on Disney, because I don't think he was ever considered for this movie. People like to blame him for this, but I don't know. For one reason or another, someone supposedly thought it was insensitive to cast real little people as the Seven Dwarfs, so they spent probably hundreds of millions of dollars in special effects to do motion capture and animation and render their faces in disgustingly photoreal CGI. Not that it's convincing, I mean, my god. What, they couldn't even do makeup and prosthetics? You couldn't do forced perspective like in the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit movies? They had to do this? It's not like Snow White's seven dwarves are even fantasy creatures like Peter Dinklage claimed. They're just dwarves, not magical Tolkien dwarves, just little people. At least that's what I assumed before I saw the new movie, because out of nowhere, it's revealed that these dwarves are immortal fantasy creatures that have lived for hundreds of years and their hands glow. And when they touch the rocks with their glowing hands, the rocks glow, and it helps them mine for gems easier. This wasn't in the original movie. And the glowing hand shit only happens once and never again. Why were they like that? Why is the dwarves being immortal a significant change? Why? Oh, and because the movie shoehorns the thing about the rebels, the dwarves get brushed off to the side for a good chunk of the film. Even worse, they're somehow less defined as characters. They retain barely a shred of what made them memorable in the original. I think they were trying to, make them fully realized three-dimensional characters, but their names are their personalities. It's okay for them to be one note. Even still, they take away so much. Doc doesn't have his stutter, Sneezy doesn't sneeze as much, weirdly enough, and Dopey fucking talks. They make Dopey talk. We always just accepted he was a mute. It's Dopey, he doesn't talk. Okay, fine. Although, yeah, it's kind of insensitive these days to call a technically disabled person Dopey. That's a bit, not great. But that's the least of our worries here. In this movie, he's not mute because he's disabled and everyone accepts him for that. He's mute because he's afraid to use his voice, and Snow White gives him the courage to speak up, and he turns out to be the narrator. Fuck off. You hear that, all you mute people out there? Fucking mutes, you're not disabled, you're a bunch of cowards, according to this movie. Oh, and I just remembered, there actually are two real little people in the cast. One of them plays Grumpy. He does the voice, but I don't know if he did the motion capture, but there's one. And then one of the rebels is a man with dwarfism. And he's not CGI, he's just a real live human being. A real live actor who is a little person. I almost screamed when he showed up. Oh my god, he's real. And they have him interacting with the CGI dwarves in one scene. What the fuck, dude? You had him, you had the one playing Grumpy, you couldn't get 5 more? Holy shit. Why fucking anything. This is definitely the worst Disney remake I have seen personally. And I already hated the 2019 Lion King. Snow White is awful. It's a cacophonous mess of dumbass decisions, pointless changes, half-assed changes, shit musical numbers, CGI animals that are only impressive in the year 2010, CGI dwarves that make me want to barf, and Gal Gadot giving an all-timer career-low performance. Rachel Zegler was the only decent thing about it, and the internet wants you to believe she's the Antichrist for some reason, all because she criticized the original and is Latina. Snow White isn't even fucking real. Why do you care if she's played by a Latina actress? That's not even a genuine problem here. There's so many other issues to address. I hate this so much. I don't even have strong feelings about the original, and I hate this. What the hell are we doing? My god, they filmed this movie like 3 years ago. It was early mid 2022 when they shot this, and they did reshoots as recently as June of 2024. Rachel Zegler made like 2 other movies in the time it took them to piece this together. And this is the end result of all that time, money, and effort? What an insult. Even Disney doesn't want anything to do with it. Word is, they just want to dump it and move on. They cut back on the press junket and everything. And after seeing it, I don't blame them. This sucks. This is an embarrassment. Walt Disney is going to crawl out of his grave and just eat the entire Disney executive board. He will consume them all in vengeance, I swear. This is fucking insulting. Oh my god, I've talked about this movie for too long. I'm done, I'm tired. That's about all I have to say for Snow White, and that's all I have to say for this video. Oh my god, the magic is dead.